Day 3 of the Expo Blitz, and this time we hammered out 2 events in one day. The original plan was simply just Waste and Recycling Expo, but they ended up making a game time decision to head to BFUTR as well. I'm really interested in sustainability and green tech. Of course, I wanted to use the event as a way to sort of test out and practice with this new gimbal as well. I was hoping to use sort of the bigger exhibits there to sort of test out like proper orbital shots, longer types of videos, and just to make sure I kind of know what I'm doing, because I honestly didn't practice with this thing before going into this event. Now, did I manage to get the best shots, the best cinematography ever? We'll see. But I did get some practice before eventually going to another event, which gave me a more trial by fire, crowded event to practice this gimbal as well. Let's take it to the top. This time, I'm heading off to the International Center for the Waste and Recycling Expo, as I mentioned beforehand. It was being held again like last year in hall number 5, but one thing I did notice immediately, it was a lot smaller than last year. There was less exhibits, usually like the big waste management company is there, like the official, the waste management company. But they didn't actually have this booth, but they still did have like a big dump truck from another like rent-a-truck company, which was always great. I use that dump truck to kind of see if I can practice more of those orbital shots or push-ins or whatever fancy stuff I was trying to do, but still got to get a little bit more work and practice in there. As for why Waste and Recycling was a bit smaller this year, I don't know. It was still a good event. It just wasn't as big, and maybe also they had both the Sports Card Expo and BFUTR happening at the same time, so there weren't as many hall space to kind of go around. I also tended closer to the end of the event, so people were kind of getting ready to pack up and head out. There weren't as many people there as, like, let's say day 1, right? On the bright side, this did give me a little bit more space to practice with the gimbal a bit more. I was able to have a bit more space to sort of practice some of those different types of shots. It was a lot easier to approach different booths without a big crowd of people there and say, hey, I do a little bit of content, mind if I try out and get some pictures? I did manage to get some interesting shots, try out more of those sort of push-ins, learn how to focus certain shots from the subject, but I still had a lot to learn. I could have maybe watched just one tutorial beforehand. They kind of showed me the different modes. The one I really needed though was tilt lock mode, which I didn't realize I had, which would have really helped me from drifting. You'll see that a lot in some of the shots from this episode and the next day, where I tend to do a little bit of this because I'm not quite sure on how to focus yet. And no matter how many videos I could have watched, it still helps to kind of get that in practice person. And I had a lot of space and a lot of time to kind of mess around. But still though, after an hour or so, I was pretty much kind of done here. I already sort of saw most, if not every booth. I made some contacts, talked to everybody, got the pictures I needed. I was kind of good to go, but I was still a little hungry for more. And I did see those billboards, those digital billboards for BFUTR. Wasn't sure what that event was, but who's stopping me from figuring it out, right? I wasn't exactly sure how or where I got the idea from, but I was still in Hall 5, the Waste and Recycling Expo, when I decided to just look on my phone and figure out what BFUTR was and see how much tickets cost. And the thing is that, like, when looking on my phone, all I had to do was just sign up and be a member, and that's it. I had free access to the event. Who am I to pass up an opportunity like that, right? So if you don't know what BFUTR is, it's hosted by Obsidi, which, according to their homepage, describes itself as the job board built for black tech professionals. BFUTR was this major hiring event for big companies to sort of look into the sort of black community and hire some great talent. And I know what you're thinking. When I got my ticket, they asked, am I a member of the black community? Of course, I said I'm not, but doesn't matter. They were still opening the doors to anybody outside of it, and I was still able to get into the event. That aside, nothing really changes. I was still in there to sort of go get some content, get some pictures, and maybe even see some of the smaller like entrepreneurs and their small businesses, and perhaps find ways to sort of promote them or at least collaborate with them on LinkedIn. I was never going to apply for any positions, or obviously I was never going to get in the way if someone was already having a conversation with the hiring manager. When I had time to approach, I was very upfront about, hey, let me just get some more pictures and perhaps some video. I just want to test out this new gimbal I have. And yeah, they were pretty receptive to that. And that's the funny thing. When I was holding this gimbal, it was visually obvious too. It gave me a little bit more credibility rather than just being someone who sort of stood out from the crowd. And so I went about doing the same thing as always, getting some really nice pictures, trying to test out some video, seeing what I can do. And yeah, I think I got some good shots. But what I really want to talk about was the absolute contrast between these two events, both BFUTR and the Waste and Recycling show. The Waste and Recycling Expo was quiet, it was packing up, they were pretty much ready to go, but BFUTR on the other hand was just bumping. They had like DJs there, like it was like the music was loud, it was crowded, shoulder to shoulder. It was just a massively different atmosphere. And just the major organizations they had there were just insane. Like the big four banks there, your TDs, your BMOs, whatever, but other major brands like Amazon.com had a massive booth there. They even had like the Score, the Weather Network, LinkedIn was there. They were doing, they had a part in their booth where people can come in and get like new professional shots taken for their LinkedIn profiles. They even had an after party. I didn't go to it, but they had J. Rule booked, right? Like this event was nuts. Overall, yeah, I was just spent the rest of the time there getting some more pictures, messing around with the gimbal. At the very end of it, I was at the Score booth, and I think it was at that point there where like the OMSO Mobile 6 battery just finally just died out on me. Maybe I didn't. It had charged beforehand. I didn't give it a full charge, but at that point, the phone just dropped because I took that thing to the bitter end. I still dealt with a bit of the drift from the gimbal. You'll see what I mean in certain shots. It's gonna really haunt me on day 4. You'll see when I get some video from the Sports Card Expo. Either way though, that was day 3 out of 4. It was an awesome event. Went to 2 different events, completely different atmospheres, and we're going to be back at the International Center for day 4 when we head off to the Sports Card Expo. Make sure you subscribe to join the expedition, and thank you for watching.